The rain-slicked streets of Chicago gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights, the kind of night where the wind off Lake Michigan carried the sharp tang of wet concrete and distant diesel exhaust. Elena Vasquez gripped the steering wheel of her battered sedan, her knuckles white against the worn leather. At 32, she was a single mother navigating the chaos of raising 3-year-old triplets. Geniuses, the pediatrician had called them, with IQs that baffled even the experts. But genius didn't pay the bills. And tonight, after a double shift at the hospital, all she wanted was to collapse into her tiny apartment on the south side. The wedding invitation had arrived like a whisper from another world, slipped under her door 2 weeks ago in a crisp envelope sealed with gold wax. No return address, just her name in elegant script, and a simple request. Your presence is requested at the union of Marco Rossi and Isabella Conti. Black tie optional. Discretion assured. Elena had almost tossed it, figuring it was a mistake. Her life didn't intersect with the glittering underbelly of the city's elite. But the triplets, Luca, Mia, and Sophia, had found it first, their tiny fingers tracing the embossed letters with unnerving focus. "Mama, it's a puzzle," Luca had said, his dark eyes gleaming. "We have to go." She'd laughed it off, but curiosity and a nagging sense of debt won out. Months earlier, during a stormy night shift in the ER, Elena had treated a man shot in a drive-by, his wounds too precise for street violence. He'd whispered about protection for his family, slipping her a card with the Rossi name before vanishing into the shadows. The wedding, she realized too late, was his world. The Rossi family wasn't just wealthy. They were the invisible threads holding Chicago's docks and warehouses in a vice of quiet control. Mafia, the whispers called them, though no one said it aloud. As she pulled up to the grand estate on the outskirts, the gates swung open without a word, flanked by men in tailored suits who nodded her through. The air hummed with the low thrum of generators, security lights casting long shadows over manicured lawns dotted with valets and limousines. Elena parked, smoothing her simple black dress, the best she could afford, and gathered the triplets from their car seats. They were dressed in matching outfits, tiny bow ties for the boys and a frilly dress for Mia, their faces alight with excitement that bordered on mischief. Inside, the ballroom was a symphony of opulence, crystal chandeliers dripping light like frozen rain, the scent of orchids mingling with aged whiskey and cigar smoke. Laughter echoed off marble floors, but beneath it lurked the tension of guarded conversations, eyes flicking to doorways where broad-shouldered men stood sentinel. Elena clutched the children's hands. Weaving through clusters of guests in designer gowns and tuxedos, the triplets tugged her forward, undeterred, their small voices chattering about codes and patterns in the room's layout. "Look, Mama," Sophia whispered, pointing to a silver-haired woman in the corner, her face etched with lines of quiet authority. "She's smiling like she knows a secret." The woman, Nonna Rossi, Elena guessed from the family resemblance, watched them with eyes sharp as polished obsidian, a faint curve to her lips that didn't reach the guests around her. The ceremony unfolded like a meticulously choreographed heist. Marco Rossi, the groom, tall and broad with a jaw like carved granite, exchanged vows with Isabella under an arch of white roses, but it was the best man who drew Elena's gaze. Dante Rossi, Marco's older brother, the rumored enforcer of the family's empire. He stood at the altar's edge, his dark suit hugging a frame honed by discipline, not Jim's. His eyes, a piercing hazel, scanned the room with the precision of a hawk, lingering just a fraction too long on Elena and the children. As the couple kissed, applause rippled through the crowd. The triplets, seated on Elena's lap, suddenly perked up. Luca leaned forward, his voice carrying in the brief hush. "Dad?" The word hung in the air, innocent and earth-shattering. Mia and Sophia echoed it in unison, their tiny arms outstretched toward Dante. "Dad!" Gasps rippled outward like a stone in still water. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs, heat flooding her cheeks. She yanked them close, whispering furiously, "Shh, what are you saying?" But the damage was done. Heads turned, murmurs swelling. Nonna Rossi's smile widened, genuine now, her eyes crinkling as she rose from her seat, applauding softly as if this were the highlight of the night. Dante froze mid-step, his composure cracking for the first time. A flicker of shock, then something deeper, like recognition dawning. He descended from the altar, weaving through the stunned guests with purposeful strides. Elena stood, shielding the triplets, her mind racing. How? They'd never met him. The invitation, the card from the ER patient. It couldn't be coincidence. Had someone been watching? The triplets' uncanny intelligence, their babbling about puzzles since the envelope arrived. Had they pieced something together from overheard stories, or was this a game they'd invented? He stopped before them, towering yet somehow restrained, his voice low and gravelly, laced with an accent that evoked old-world olive groves and hidden vendettas. "They're yours?" It wasn't a question, more an assessment, his gaze dropping to the children who beamed up at him without fear. Elena swallowed, the room's chatter fading to a distant buzz. "Yes, but they don't know you." Her words tumbled out, defensive, as Nonna approached, her hand on Dante's arm, that smile unwavering. "Oh, but they do, Kara," the old woman said softly, her English precise, eyes twinkling with secrets. "Children see what we hide. Come, sit with us. The night's just beginning." Dante extended a hand, not to Elena, but to Luca, who took it without hesitation. The boy's fingers intertwined with the massive ones, and in that moment, Elena glimpsed the web closing around her, a debt called in, a mystery unraveling. Why the invitation? What had the ER patient truly meant by family? As they moved toward a private alcove, the triplets chattering happily. "Dad, the lights make patterns." Elena felt the chill of surveillance prick her skin. Outside, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a black SUV idled in the shadows, its tinted windows reflecting the storm clouds gathering anew. Who had whispered the word "Dad" into her children's ears? And what price would the Rossi demand for this unexpected claim? The alcove was a velvet-draped sanctuary within the ballroom's chaos, its heavy curtains muffling the clink of champagne flutes and the swell of orchestral strings. Elena sank into a plush armchair, the triplets clustered at her feet like eager satellites, their small hands tugging at Dante's trouser legs. The air here carried a richer scent, aged leather from the wall's paneling, a hint of rosemary from Nonna Rossi's perfume, and the faint metallic tang of the storm pressing against the estate's leaded windows. Outside, rain began to patter, turning the manicured gardens into a blurred watercolor of shadows. Dante lowered himself onto the sofa opposite, his movements deliberate, like a predator coiling without striking. His hazel eyes, now fixed on the children, softened in a way that unsettled Elena more than his earlier stare. Luca climbed onto his knee uninvited, pointing at the chandelier's facets. "See the code? It's like the one on the invitation. Refracts light into signals." Mia nodded vigorously, her curls bouncing. "We decoded it, Dad. It said family reunion in Morse." Elena's breath caught. The invitation. A puzzle? She'd dismissed their chatter as childish fancy, but now, watching Dante's brow furrow, she wondered. "They're just playing," she said quickly, her voice sharper than intended. "They make up stories, from books or whatever kids do." But Nonna, settling beside her with a grace that belied her years, patted Elena's hand. The old woman's skin was cool, papery, yet her grip firm, conveying an unspoken anchor. "Stories have roots, Elena," Nonna murmured, her accent a melodic lilt from Sicilian hills long left behind. 3 years ago, you saved more than a life in that ER. You saved his legacy." She nodded toward Dante, who was listening to Sophia's ramble about guard rotations at the estate's gates, details no 3-year-old should notice, let alone articulate. Dante's jaw tightened, the scar along his temple, a thin white line Elena hadn't noticed before, catching the lamplight. "The man you treated that night," he said, his voice low, gravel over silk. "My cousin, Antonio. He was carrying a message for me, about a rival crew from the docks, Contis before the marriage alliance. He mentioned you, said you asked no questions, just patched him up and sent him out the back with a burner phone I provided." His gaze lifted to hers, probing. "Why?" Elena's pulse thrummed in her ears, the room's warmth suddenly cloying. That night replayed in fragments, the gunshot victim's labored breaths, the acrid smell of blood mixing with hospital bleach, his fevered whisper of, "Rossi owes you." She'd pocketed the card out of curiosity, or maybe pity, but never followed up. Bills piled higher than questions back then. "I didn't know," she admitted, glancing at the triplets, who were now tracing invisible patterns on Dante's palm. "It was just my job. And the kids. They've never even seen your picture." Nonna chuckled softly, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "Children sense bloodlines, or perhaps someone planted the seed." Her smile lingered, enigmatic, as she signaled a waiter. A silver tray arrived with delicate pastries and sparkling water, but Elena's appetite had vanished. As the triplets nibbled, chattering about safe houses they'd designed in their playroom, blueprints sketched on napkins that eerily mimicked warehouse layouts, Dante leaned forward. "I've had eyes on you since Antonio's report," he confessed, no apology in his tone. "Not to threaten, to protect. The Contis didn't take kindly to our expansion. Shipping manifests tampered, trucks rerouted. When the invitation went out, it was meant as a gesture. Repay the debt. But this..." He gestured to the children, his large hand hovering as if afraid to touch. "If they're calling me Dad, there's a reason. DNA doesn't lie, but neither do instincts." Elena's mind reeled, piecing together the impossible. The triplets' father. She'd sworn off entanglements after a fleeting night 3 years ago. An anonymous encounter at a charity gala fundraiser for the hospital. The man's face blurred by masks and too much wine. No names exchanged, just a whirlwind of passion that left her with 3 miracles and endless shifts. Could it be him? The timing fit, but the Rossis? The underbelly of Chicago's ports, where crates of imported goods vanished into fog-shrouded warehouses, controlled by families like his. Before she could respond, a subtle vibration hummed from Dante's pocket. A burner phone, she realized, the kind with encrypted signals that evaded standard surveillance. He glanced at the screen, his expression hardening. "Excuse me." He stepped to the alcove's edge, murmuring into it, words lost in the ballroom's din. Nonna watched him go, her smile fading to a watchful line. "The world's not kind to lone wolves, Kara, or lone mothers. Join us and the shadows lift." Elena scooped up Mia, who protested with a giggle. "But Mama, Dad's convoy is late. The rain jams the signals." How did they know these things? From the TV, overheard at daycare? Or had surveillance gone both ways? Cameras in her apartment building, whispers from neighbors paid to report. The thought chilled her, the rain now drumming harder against the glass, thunder rumbling like distant generators firing up. Dante returned, his face a mask of controlled fury. Trouble at the docks, a shipment delayed, Conti holdouts testing the alliance. I need to handle it. He knelt to the triplets' level, ruffling Luca's hair with surprising gentleness. "Stay with Nonna and your... Elena. I'll be back by dawn." His eyes met hers, a promise laced with command. "This isn't over. We talk. All of us." As he strode away, flanked by 2 suits who materialized from the crowd, Elena felt the alcove's intimacy fracture. Nonna rose, linking arms with her. "Come, Let's find a quieter wing. The children need rest, and you. Answers. They moved through the estate's labyrinthine halls, the triplets skipping ahead, their laughter echoing off polished oak. Marble floors gleamed under sconce light, the air cooler here, scented with beeswax and faint ozone from the storm. In a guest suite overlooking the river, its dark waters churning below like a living vein, Elena tucked the children into a massive four-poster bed. They drifted off murmuring Dad's code, their tiny chests rising in sync. Nonna lingered by the door, her smile returning, softer now. He has a code, you know. Never harms the innocent. Lost his own father to a betrayal, vowed to protect what matters. These little ones. They matter. Elena paced to the window, peering into the night. Headlights pierced the rain far below, a convoy snaking toward the docks, but one vehicle lagged, its taillights flickering erratically. Was it tampered? A rival's sabotage? Her reflection stared back, shocked eyes wide. If Dante was their father, what claim did that give the Rossis? Protection or possession? As lightning cracked the sky, illuminating a figure in the tree line, a watcher perhaps, or just a valet, Elena wondered. Who had truly sent the invitation, and what hidden ledger tied her past to this empire's heart? The storm raged outside the guest suite like a beast clawing at the estate's stone walls, rain lashing the leaded panes in relentless sheets. Elena stood frozen at the window, her breath fogging the glass, the river below a roiling black serpent under flashes of lightning. The convoy's taillights had vanished into the night, swallowed by the downpour and the winding roads toward the docks. Her mind churned faster than the waters. Dante's confession of surveillance, the triplets' eerie insights, Nonna's cryptic hints about legacies and codes. If he was their father, it wasn't just biology at stake. It was entanglement in a world of shadowed alliances and whispered threats. Nonna Rossi lingered in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the hallway's warm sconce light, casting elongated shadows that danced like wary guards. "Can't sleep with thunder like that, Kara?" she asked, her voice a soothing murmur over the gale's howl. She entered, carrying a silver tray with steaming chamomile tea and a small leather-bound book, its edges worn from years of handling. The scent of herbs cut through the room's musty air, mingling with the ozone sharpness seeping from the storm. Elena turned, rubbing her arms against the chill that had nothing to do with the weather. "I need answers, not tea. How do the children know him? And why invite us now, after 3 years?" The triplets stirred in the bed behind her, their small forms tangled in silk sheets, but they slept on, oblivious to the unraveling. Nonna set the tray on a mahogany side table, the book's thud soft but deliberate. She opened it to a marked page, revealing columns of neat script, discrete ledgers, Elena realized, tracking shipments, dates, and cryptic notes like Conti reroute confirmed or Antonio's debt cleared via ER contact. No overt illegality, but the implications hung heavy. Manifests for cargo that moved under cover of night, from warehouses along the Calumet River to hidden safe houses in the industrial sprawl. "This is Dante's record," Nonna explained, tracing a line with a gnarled finger. "He keeps it himself. No digital trails. Too easy to hack. Antonio's entry mentions you. Nurse Vasquez. Saved op. Owe life for family." That night, he carried a flash drive with access codes for a rival's surveillance cams. You didn't see it, but your quick hands kept him breathing long enough to deliver it. Elena's stomach twisted, the antiseptic memory of that ER shift resurfacing, the beeps of monitors, the sting of iodine, Antonio's bloodied burner phone clutched in his fist. She'd handed it back without a second glance, assuming it was junk. So this is repayment? Inviting a stranger to a wedding? But even as she spoke, doubt crept in. The triplets' dad at the altar wasn't coincidence. Their genius minds pieced patterns from fragments, perhaps a photo in a newspaper, or whispers from Elena's late-night stories about their conception. Nonna's eyes, sharp despite the dim light, softened with that perpetual smile. Not stranger. Possible kin. Dante's code demands protection for debts, especially to innocents. He lost his father to a turncoat, betrayed in a tunnel collapse rigged by rivals, vowed never to let family hang exposed. The invitation was his gesture, but the children, they chose him. She paused, glancing at the sleeping forms. Test them tomorrow. Patterns, puzzles, they see tells others miss. Guard rotations, vehicle plates. If they're his, it'll show. A crack of thunder shook the room, the lights flickering as if the estate's generators strained against the onslaught. Elena crossed to the bed, smoothing Sophia's hair, her heart aching with the push-pull of fear and longing. Autonomy had been her armor. Double shifts, scraped-together childcare, no man to complicate the fragile balance. But here, in this opulent cage, protection tempted like forbidden fruit. What if rivals like the lingering Conti faction targeted them now, seeing the wedding as a weak point? Surveillance wasn't just Rossi eyes. It could be anyone. The door creaked open without a knock, admitting a young woman in a crisp uniform, house staff, her badge glinting under the lamp. Signora Rossi, she said breathlessly, rain dripping from her coat. A message from the docks. Mr. Dante's convoy hit a snag, roadblock on the expressway, possibly deliberate. Storms jamming signals, but one's trailing them. He asks you keep the suite secure. Her eyes darted to the ledger, then away, a subtle tell, unease, perhaps loyalty tested. Nonna's smile vanished, replaced by a steely nod. Lock the outer hall, no one in without my say. As the woman retreated, footsteps echoing down the corridor, Elena's pulse raced. A roadblock in this weather? Natural jam or sabotage? Tires slashed? A false alarm to draw Dante out? The triplets murmured in sleep, Luca bolting upright. Mama, the lights, flicker pattern, Morse for watch east. He pointed to the window, where distant sodium lights along the river pulsed erratically. Not from the storm, but something mechanical. A signal? From whom? Elena rushed to the glass, Nonna at her side. Through the sheets of rain, a faint glow bobbed on the riverbank, a small boat perhaps, or a lantern from a watcher in the tree line. No clear shape, just the hum of a distant motor cutting through the wind. It's nothing, she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. The ledger lay open, a new entry hastily scrawled in Dante's hand from earlier. Vasquez, verify blood, protect at all costs. Her ethics warred with prudence. Independence screamed to flee, but the children's safety chained her here. Nonna closed the book with a snap, her grip on Elena's arm unyielding. Dawn brings clarity. For now, we wait. The code holds. But as another flicker lit the night, closer this time, headlights weaving through the gates, Elena wondered if waiting was a luxury they could afford. Had the trailing vehicle breached the estate's perimeter, and what access code had let it slip the guards? If you're enjoying this story so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. The storm's fury peaked as dawn crept in like a reluctant thief, gray light filtering through the suite's heavy drapes, turning the room into a haze of muted shadows and rain-streaked reflections. Elena hadn't slept. Her body coiled on the edge of the four-poster bed, one hand resting on the triplets' warm forms, while the other clutched the ledger Nonna had left behind. Its pages whispered secrets in the quiet, entries detailing burner phone handoffs at warehouse loading bays, guard rotations synced to shipping manifests from the port of Chicago, and a circled note. Vasquez anomaly. Triplets patterns match Rossi tells. Test discreetly. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp wool from the storm-soaked rugs and the faint bitter edge of cooling tea. now forgotten on the side table. Luca stirred first, his dark eyes snapping open with that unnerving clarity, as if he'd been awake in dreams, solving equations. "Mama." The signal stopped at 3, then 17. East Gate compromised. Plate ends in 47 Z'd, like the one in Nona's book. He sat up, rubbing his face, while Mia and Sophia blinked awake, their small voices overlapping in a chorus of observations. "The boat was a decoy," Mia added, pointing to the window where the river now churned sluggishly under a lifting mist. Motor hum shifted pitch. Diesel, not electric, hiding cargo. Elena's throat tightened, the children's words slicing through her exhaustion like a scalpel. How did they know? From the flickering lights, pieced together with the precision of tiny detectives, or had the Rossi's surveillance fed them scraps, nannies with loose lips, or worse, monitored play sessions disguised as daycare check-ins? She pulled them close, their curls tickling her chin, the warmth of their bodies a fragile anchor against the encroaching chill. Autonomy had been her creed, scraping by on nurses' pay and sheer will. But this web of protection felt like velvet chains, pulling her deeper into Dante's code-bound world. Nonna appeared at the door without preamble, her silver hair pinned impeccably, a shawl draped over her shoulders like armor. 2 estate guards flanked her, their earpieces humming faintly with radio static, faces impassive but eyes scanning the hall's polished oak panels. "The convoy's back," she said, her voice steady, that smile flickering like a guarded flame. "Dante's in the study. Come, no time for doubts." She extended a hand to Sophia, who took it eagerly, the girl's fingers tracing the old woman's rings as if decoding their engravings. They descended the grand staircase, the estate awakening in layers, kitchen staff clattering pots in distant wings, the low growl of generators idling down as power stabilized, and the pervasive scent of wet earth wafting from open terrace doors. Marble steps echoed underfoot, cool and unyielding, while outside, the river's banks gleamed with puddles reflecting the first hints of sun. Elena's simple dress from the night before clung uncomfortably, a reminder of her outsider status amid the tailored suits and heirloom jewels. The study was a fortress within the mansion, dark walnut walls lined with leather-bound volumes that smelled of aged paper and pipe tobacco, a massive desk dominating the space like a command center. Maps of the city's industrial corridors pinned to one wall, marked with red pins at dock coordinates and tunnel access points. Dante stood by a window overlooking the grounds, his suit rumpled from the night's ordeal, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms corded with tension. A fresh bruise shadowed his jaw, the scar on his temple more pronounced in the morning light. He turned as they entered, his hazel eyes locking on Elena first, then softening on the triplets, who scampered to him without hesitation. "Dad, the roadblock, was it tires or brakes?" Luca asked, climbing onto a leather ottoman to peer at the maps. Dante knelt, leveling with him, his gravelly voice gentle but edged with fatigue. "Tires, slashing tool left behind, Conti signature, serrated edge. But we flipped it, convoy extracted clean." He ruffled the boy's hair, a possessive glint in his eye that sent a shiver through Elena. Loyalty or control? The line blurred here, in this room where decisions rippled out to shadowed warehouses and fog-bound riversides. Nonna settled into an armchair, gesturing Elena to sit beside her. "Tell her about the Watcher," the old woman prompted, her smile unwavering, as if this were a family breakfast rather than a debrief. Dante straightened, pulling a small device from his pocket, an encrypted scanner, its screen glowing with captured data. The boat on the riverbank? Decoy, like the kids said. But the trailing vehicle breached the east gate at 2:45. Access code pinged from an internal burner. Someone inside fed it. Guard rotation was solid, no human error. Tech glitch, or betrayal. Elena's pulse quickened, the room's air thickening with the hum of the scanner and the distant drip of rain from eaves. Inside? Like the staff last night? She thought of the young woman's uneasy glance at the ledger, her dripping coat a prelude to chaos. Dante nodded, his gaze probing hers, a mix of suspicion and something warmer. Trust earned in the storm's crucible. Possibly, or deeper. Contests have moles. Wedding alliances don't erase old grudges. Shipments last night. Manifests showed rerouted crates from the Calumet docks. If they're linking you to me. He trailed off, the implication hanging. The triplets as leverage, her as the weak point. The children, undeterred, clustered around the maps, their fingers tracing routes with eerie accuracy. This tunnel here, Sophia said, tapping a marked vein under the city. Echoes match the storm's thunder. Good for evasion, but watch for water levels, rising after rain. Mia nodded. And the plates. 47Z was on a truck we saw from the car window yesterday. Mama's apartment block. Elena's blood ran cold. Surveillance had eyes on her home. The South Side sedan she'd driven, now likely tailed by unmarked vans blending into traffic. Dante's hand brushed hers as he handed over the scanner, a deliberate touch that sparked heat amid the tension. Possessiveness veiled as protection. They're brilliant, like you. But this world, it tests bonds. My code, no innocence harmed, means you them, all of us. His voice dropped, intimate in the study's confines. 3 years ago, that gala. Masked. But I remember the laugh, the fire. Elena's breath hitched. The anonymous night crystallized. The strong hands, the whispered promises in a penthouse suite overlooking the lake. It fit. But acceptance meant surrender, her independence traded for his shadowed empire. Nona's smile deepened, crinkling her eyes as she watched the exchange. See? Blood calls. But choose wisely, Kara. The trailer's plate leads to a safe house in the tunnels. Conti remnant. We move now. Or they do. A sharp buzz from the desk phone shattered the moment. Security radio. Urgent. Dante snatched it, listening, his face hardening. Perimeter breach confirmed. East wing. False alarm fire, smoke diversions. They're inside. He scooped up Luca, signaling the guards. Elena's heart pounded, the triplets' eyes wide but unafraid, as if this were just another puzzle. They rushed into the hall, the estate's alarms wailing faintly, the air acrid with the first wisps of smoke curling from a distant corridor. Doors slammed, footsteps thundering like a staged heist unraveling. Dante pressed a burner phone into Elena's hand, his grip lingering. Stay with Nona. Extract if needed. Codes in the ledger. As he vanished into the fray, flanked by his men, Elena clutched the device, the triplets at her side. Who had sold the access code, and would the smoke hide a blade aimed at the heart of this fragile family? The acrid bite of smoke clawed at Elena's throat as she herded the triplets down the east wing's labyrinthine corridor. The estate's alarms a piercing wail that drowned out the fading storm's rumble. Nona moved ahead with surprising agility, her shawl fluttering like a banner of resolve, one hand gripping Sophia's, while the other clutched a small key fob that blinked red in sync with hidden sensors. The air thickened with the chemical tang of a staged blaze. Dry ice and fog machines, Elena guessed from her ER days. Not real flames, but enough to sow chaos, jam exits, and blind security cams. Marble floors slicked with spilled water from burst pipes, or sabotage, threatened to send them sprawling, the triplets' tiny feet pattering in frantic rhythm. Stay low, Kara, Nona urged, her voice cutting through the haze like a lifeline, that smile etched now with grim determination. The service tunnels, old bootlegger paths from Prohibition. Dante's code, always a back way out. She punched a code into a concealed panel behind a tapestry of faded Renaissance saints, the mechanism grinding open with a pneumatic hiss. Cool, musty air rushed out, carrying the earthy scent of river silt and rusted iron from below. Elena scooped up Mia and Luca, their small bodies trembling but eyes alight with puzzle-solving fervor. Mama, The smoke's patterned, vents cycling every 12 seconds, Luca whispered, coughing lightly. They're flushing us east. Elena's heart hammered, the burner phone in her pocket vibrating insistently. A text from Dante? No signal bars, jammed by the interference, she realized. The storm's remnants amplifying some deliberate electronic shroud. The ledger's weight pressed against her hip, tucked into her dress pocket. Its pages held the key, or so Nonna claimed, discrete entries on access codes, like the one for the East Gate. 47Z override, internal source. Who inside had betrayed them? The young staffer from the night, her uneasy glance a tell. Or deeper, a Conti plant in the wedding's very folds, grudge festering beneath alliance vows? They descended into the tunnel, stone steps slick underfoot, the walls dripping with condensation that echoed their hurried breaths. Dim emergency strips glowed along the baseboards, casting elongated shadows that twisted like watchful figures. The hum of distant generators vibrated through the rock, mingling with the faint drip-drip of water seeping from above. Perhaps the river itself, pressing close in this buried vein of the city. Nonna led with the fob's light, illuminating faded graffiti from decades past. Bootlegger marks, arrowed routes to hidden speakeasies now repurposed for modern shadows. These paths saved my husband's life once, she murmured, her accent thickening with memory. Betrayal in the family, a cousin sold out for Conti gold. Dante learned young, trust is earned in the dark. Elena's mind raced, possessiveness warring with her fierce independence. Dante's world offered shields, convoy escorts, safe houses stocked with encrypted ledgers, but at what cost? Her ethics recoiled at the gray edges of his empire, shipments that skirted manifests, rival factions pressing like the tunnel's closing walls. Yet the triplets' safety tethered her. Their genius, once a private joy, now a beacon drawing predators. Mia tugged her sleeve. The betrayal, it's the housekeeper. Her ringtone last night, same as the boat motor. Frequency match. Sophia nodded, her voice a determined squeak. And the code, she whispered it to the guard. Behavioral tell. Eyes left, not right. Nonna halted at a junction, the air cooler here, laced with the metallic tang of standing water. Forked paths stretched left to the river docks and right toward the estate's underbelly garages. She consulted the fob, its screen flickering with a partial map. Children see what cameras miss, she said, pride softening her features. Dante's code restrains him. No innocence, no loose ends that harm the vulnerable. But this fire, it's a diversion for infiltration. They're after the ledger, or worse, you. Elena's pulse spiked, the book burned in her pocket, its secrets a magnet for the smoke's architects. Legacy weighed heavy. Dante's vow forged in his father's rigged collapse, now extended to them? Or a gilded cage? Autonomy sacrificed on the altar of protection? A distant clatter echoed. Footsteps? Or the estate settling? Elena strained to listen, the burner's vibration ceasing abruptly, battery dead or signal killed. We can't wait, she said, voice steady despite the fear coiling in her gut. Docks or garages? Nonna chose left, toward the river, her smile a faint curve in the gloom. Water hides trails, convoys en route, Dante's men with plates scrubbed, rotations tight. They pressed on, the tunnel narrowing, the children's hands slick in hers. Luca pointed ahead, vent grate, light shifting, watchers above. Through a rusted grill overhead, shadows moved, silhouettes in the estate's service hall, voices muffled but urgent. The suite's clear, but the old woman's gone. Tunnel access pinged. A woman's voice, accented faintly Italian. The staffer? Betrayal confirmed, human error in loyalty's chain. Elena's stomach knotted, suspicion versus trust, ambition luring the weak. Nonna pressed a finger to her lips, guiding them past, the river's murmur growing louder, a natural ally against the artificial chaos. They emerged at a concealed dockside grate, the Chicago River's chill breath slapping their faces, mist rising from its oily surface under the morning sun. Warehouses loomed across the water, cranes idle like skeletal sentinels, the air sharp with diesel and fish rot. A black SUV idled nearby, unmarked but for a subtle Rossi crest on the dash. Dante's extraction, guards scanning with suppressed urgency. Nonna waved them forward. But Elena hesitated, the ledger heavy as chains. Hand it over? Or hold her ground, ethics demanding she verify the blood tie herself? DNA, not instincts? As they piled in, engines growling to life, a plume of smoke billowed from the estate's east wing, visible now as a controlled burn, diversion spent. Dante's voice crackled over the driver's radio. Perimeter secure, moles ID'd, housekeeper, Conti payoff via rerouted manifest, but one's loose. The SUV lurched forward, tires crunching gravel, weaving toward the city's veiled arteries. Elena's hand found Luca's, the triplets' faces pressed to the window, decoding the passing plates with gleeful whispers. Protection enveloped them like the vehicle's leather seats, but the cost lingered. Exposure, a family's fracture mended in shadows. Nonna's smile returned, crinkling deep, as if the peril only sharpened the bond. But who was the loose end, and would they strike before the blood test sealed their fates? The SUV sliced through Chicago's awakening streets, its tires humming over rain-slicked asphalt that still gleamed from the night's deluge. The river's industrial sprawl blurred past the tinted windows, cranes looming like iron giants, warehouses hunkered low with sodium lights flickering off in the dawn haze. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of wet leather, and faint exhaust seeping through the vents, the low growl of the engine underscoring the guard's murmured radio checks. Elena sat rigid in the back, the triplets wedged between her and Nonna, their small bodies vibrating with the vehicle's speed. Luca's nose pressed to the glass, murmuring plate numbers like a mantra, while Mia sketched invisible roots on her knee. Dante's voice crackled over the intercom again, gravelly and clipped. Loose end's a driver, Conti affiliate, embedded in the valet crew, last ping from the estate garage. Headed south on Halstead, black sedan, partial plate 8229. The driver, a burly man with a Rossi pin on his lapel, nodded into the rear view, accelerating smoothly to weave through early traffic. Nonna's hand rested on Elena's knee, steadying, her smile a quiet anchor amid the tension. He handles the chases. Code's clear. Extract first, questions later. Elena's fingers tightened around the burner phone, now recharging in the console's hidden slot, its screen dark but promising encrypted lines once powered. The ledger weighed heavier in her pocket, its leather edges digging into her thigh, a tangible link to Dante's world of discrete tallies and shadowed debts. Independence clawed at her. She'd built her life on ER shifts and scraped together stability, not convoy runs and mole hunts, but the triplets' safety, their uncanny reads on the chaos, bound her tighter than any vow. "This driver," she said, voice low over the engine's thrum. "How do we know he's the threat? Not just a false alarm?" Nonna's eyes twinkled, though the smile held an edge now. "Tells Kara. Valets rotate every hour. His shift ended at dawn, but the garage cam caught a behavioral slip, lingered by the east exit, eyes on the tunnel grate, and the children." She glanced at Sophia, who piped up without prompting. He whistled, 3 short, 1 long, Morse for relay, matches the boat signal last night. Luca nodded, his genius unspooling like thread. Plate 829 ties to a manifest in the book, rerouted truck from the docks, Conti ghost cargo. The SUV banked sharply onto a side street, the Calumet River's brackish tang intensifying through cracked vents, mingling with the diesel rumble of idling semis ahead. Elena pulled the ledger out, flipping to the flagged page under the guard's watchful glances. Entries blurred in the dim light. Valet ID 47. Access anomaly. 829 link to South Safe House. Human error or calculated betrayal. Ambition over loyalty. A payoff from rivals testing the wedding's fragile peace. Dante's code restrained the Empire's reach, but it couldn't seal every crack. Her ethics twisted. Was this protection or possession masking as family? A sudden jolt rocked the vehicle, the driver swearing under his breath as brakes engaged. Tail on us. Black sedan, 2 cars back. 829 confirmed. Through the rear window, Elena glimpsed it. Sleek, unremarkable, blending into the morning rush but accelerating too aggressively, weaving past a delivery van with predatory intent. The radio buzzed alive, Dante's voice urgent. Flank him at the bridge. No engagement. Evade to the warehouse district. Elena, keep low. His concern laced the command, possessiveness threading through like the river's undercurrent, pulling her toward surrender. The triplets huddled closer, Mia's whisper fierce. Jammed exits ahead, construction barriers staged? The driver confirmed it, veering onto an industrial bypass, where chain-link fences flanked potholed roads, the air heavy with the oily reek of refineries. Sodium lights buzzed overhead, casting erratic pools on wet pavement, shadows lengthening as the sun struggled through low clouds. Nonna pressed the fob, activating a secondary signal, perhaps alerting hidden Rossi assets in the sprawl. The tunnels connect here, she said, her accent sharpening with resolve. If they force us in, we use the water levels. Sophia's right, rains raised them. Flood a pursuit. Tension coiled like a spring. Elena's pulse matched the wiper's frantic swipe, the sedan's headlights now glaring in the mirror, closing the gap. A burner in the console lit up, Dante calling through. She snatched it, his voice filling the cabin. Trust the route. I've got eyes on manifests. They're after the ledger, proof of the mole's payoffs. Dialogue cut short as the tail rammed their bumper, a glancing blow that sent the SUV fishtailing, tires screeching on gravel-strewn asphalt. The guard in the passenger seat drew a suppressed pistol, but held fire. Dante's code. No innocents, no street shootouts drawing badges. Bridge ahead, block incoming, the driver barked, gunning the engine toward the rusted span over a narrow canal, its railings scarred from years of heavy loads. The sedan surged, angling to cut them off, but Luca shouted, "Left fork! Guard rotation gap!" The driver swerved just in time, the SUV barreling onto a service ramp lined with derelict shipping containers, their corrugated sides echoing the roar. The canal's murky water churned below, foam flecked with debris, the air sharp with rust and stagnant rot. They burst into the warehouse district, a maze of looming silos and loading bays shrouded in morning fog, generators humming distantly like watchful beasts. The sedan faltered at the fork, trapped by a sudden convoy of Rossi-marked trucks emerging from side alleys, plates scrubbed clean, rotations flipping to box it in. No shots fired, just a coordinated blockade, logistics turning the tide. The pursuing vehicle skidded to a halt, doors flying open as figures bolted into the shadows, abandoning the chase but not the threat. The SUV slowed to a halt behind a fortified warehouse, its roll-up door grinding open on silent hydraulics. Guards spilled out, securing the perimeter with radio sweeps, the air cooling to the metallic chill of concrete floors, stacked with innocuous crates, cover for the Empire's veiled operations. Dante emerged from the gloom, his frame silhouetted against interior lights, bruise darkening but eyes fierce. He pulled Elena from the vehicle first, his hand lingering on her waist, a claim softened by relief. "You held," he murmured, hazel gaze searching hers. The loose ends cornered, interrogation at the safe house, but the blood test. We do it now. No more shadows. Nonna gathered the triplets, her smile blooming wide as they recounted the evasion in excited bursts, decoding the sedan's tells like a game. Elena met Dante's stare, autonomy fracturing under the weight of survival. Trust blooming amid the peril, bonds forged in the chase. Yet as a guard radioed in a final ping, Mole's burner active calling south, She wondered if the loose end was truly snared, or if another betrayal lurked in the manifest's fine print. If this tale already has you hooked, hit the like button. It helps us bring more hidden stories to light. The warehouse's cavernous interior swallowed them whole, its concrete expanse echoing with the grind of the roll-up door sealing shut behind the SUV. Dim overhead fluorescents buzzed to life, casting harsh pools of light on stacked pallets of what looked like legitimate imports. Electronics crates stamped with overseas manifests, the air thick with the musty scent of cardboard and machine oil. Deeper in, the hum of ventilation fans stirred the staleness, mingling with the faint, acrid tang of welding torches from a distant repair bay. Elena's shoes scraped against the grit-swept floor as Dante guided her forward, his arm a steady bar across her shoulders, possessive yet protective in the wake of the chase. The triplets scampered ahead, undaunted, their small forms darting between shadows like pint-sized scouts. Luca paused at a workbench cluttered with tools, wire cutters, encrypted scanners, and a stack of burner phones in various states of disassembly, his fingers hovering over a half-built device. "Dad, this jammer's frequency matches the sedan's tail light flicker. They were relaying to the south safe house." Dante knelt beside him, hazel eyes narrowing with a mix of pride and calculation, his bruised jaw tightening. "Good eye. We'll trace it. Manifest show 3 handoffs last week, all Conti reroutes." No praise gushed, just acknowledgement, his code demanding precision over sentiment. Nona trailed with the guards, her shawl draped like a veil, that smile unwavering as she watched the children decode the space. "See the patterns, Kara?" she said to Elena, nodding toward a wall-mounted ledger screen, digital twin to the physical book, its interface glowing with columns of vehicle plates, access logs, and subtle behavioral flags. Valet 47, eyes left during shift change, anomaly score 8. 2. The old woman's hand rested on Sophia's head, guiding her to a side console where Mia was already tapping keys, pulling up a grainy feed from estate cams. The loose ends burner pinged here, Halstead and 18th, circling a drop point. Elena's pulse still thrummed from the evasion, the canal's murky churn replaying in her mind like a looped reel. She leaned against a crate, the rough wood biting through her dress, the ledger now handed off to a tech who scanned it with a handheld reader. Independence screamed to pull back, verify the blood tie on her terms. Not in this fortified bunker reeking of diesel and deception, but prudence anchored her. The triplets' lives weren't puzzles. They were stakes in a game of rival factions and internal cracks. "The driver," she said, voice steady amid the fans' whir. "He's the mole, or just a pawn?" Dante rose, closing the distance, his presence a wall of restrained power, the scent of rain and exertion clinging to him. "Pawn with a ledger of his own," he replied, low and gravelly, pulling a tablet from a secure drawer. Its screen lit with intercepted messages, burner texts routed through proxy servers. Nothing supernatural, just common tech exploits. Wedding week, target kids, extract nurse for leverage, payoff at South Drop. Elena's stomach knotted, the words a cold slap. Surveillance had eyes on her apartment, the hospital shifts, even the triplets' daycare patterns. Vehicle plates logged, guard rotations around her building noted in discrete entries. Human conflict boiled, her ethics versus his code, autonomy clashing with the pull of found family. "You watched us for years," she accused. Though the heat lacked fire, survival had blunted the edge. Dead or not, that's not protection. That's control. Dante's gaze held hers, unflinching, the scar on his temple a pale reminder of losses that shaped him. Control keeps you breathing. Contis lost a shipment last month, crates of rerouted goods from the docks, worth enough to fund a hit. They see the wedding as fracture. You as the wedge. The kids calling me dad? That's no accident. Blood test confirms it, but instincts don't lie. He gestured to a side room, partitioned by reinforced glass. A makeshift med bay, stocked with vials, centrifuges, and a portable analyzer. ER-grade tech, credible and cold. Nonna ushered the triplets there first, their chatter filling the space. Sample like mama's blood draws. Quick prick, code for family match. As Elena submitted to the swab, her cheek cells scraped with sterile efficiency, the triplets mirroring the process with giggles masking their sharpness. The warehouse's tension simmered. Guards patrolled the perimeter, radios crackling with updates. South safe house secured. Driver apprehended. No resistance. But a subtle tell nagged. The tech's fingers hesitated over the ledger scan, eyes flicking to his earpiece. Behavioral slip or paranoia? The analyzer whirred, processing DNA strands against Dante's archived sample. Nothing impossible, just rapid sequencing tech available to those with resources. Minutes stretched, the air cooling as ventilation kicked harder, drowning a distant clank, perhaps a loose pallet or an infiltrator testing locks. Nonna's smile widened as the screen beeped, green confirmation flashing. 99. 9% match. Father to the triplets, undeniable. Dante's shoulders eased fractionally, his hand finding Elena's, a vow in the touch. Protection extended, legacy claimed. You're ours now, he said, voice softening the possession. Code includes you. No more lone shifts, no exposed roots. The triplets cheered, piling into his arms, their genius a bridge over the chasm of her doubts. Trust bloomed tentative, suspicion yielding to the warmth of chosen bonds, but Elena's mind raced. The south drop. Had the driver spilled more? Or was the real threat the ledger's unlogged entry? A deeper turncoat in the convoy. A sharp radio burst shattered the moment. Boss, driver's talking. Says the payoff's not Conti. Internal job, wedding insider. Manifest tampered from the estate core. Dante's face hardened, releasing the children as he snatched the comm. Elena's blood chilled. Betrayal's root ran deeper than a valet's greed. Nonna's smile faltered, eyes sharpening on the tech, who now backed away, hand slipping toward a pocket. Was the analyzer's result the lure? And who in the family had sold them out for the final strike? The warehouse's fluorescence hummed like a swarm of agitated bees, their stark glow etching harsh lines on every face as the radio's burst hung in the air, a venomous aftershock. Elena's hand instinctively shielded the triplets, pulling them behind the medbay's glass partition, the cool barrier fogging under her palm. The tech froze mid-step, his pocketed hand twitching, a tell as clear as the ledger's flagged anomalies, while Dante's frame coiled, hazel eyes locking on him with predatory focus. The air thickened with the sharp ozone of overheating circuits from the analyzer, mingling with the warehouse's pervasive oil and rust, the distant clank now unmistakable. Footsteps, deliberate and closing from the repair bay's shadows. Stand down, Dante growled, his voice a low rumble that cut through the ventilation's whir, but the tech bolted, knocking over a tray of tools that clattered like gunfire. Guards surged forward, radios crackling in unison. Perimeter breach. Internal. As the triplets pressed against Elena, Luca's whisper urgent. His earpiece, off-frequency hum, relaying to the south drop. Mia nodded, eyes wide. Manifest tampered here, not estate. He's the core. Sophia clutched Elena's leg, her small voice steady. Dad's code. Extract. No innocence. Dante vaulted the workbench, his suit jacket shedding like a skin. Muscles honed from years of dockside enforcements propelling him after the fleeing figure. The warehouse erupted into controlled chaos. Pallets shoved aside with metallic groans, crates toppling to reveal hidden compartments stocked with burner arrays and encrypted drives. Logistics of an empire laid bare. Nonna herded the children toward a side exit, her smile a defiant curve amid the fray, shawl whipping as she keyed the roll-up door's override. Tunnels again, Kara. Water levels stable now, post-rain drain. Elena scooped up Mia and Sophia, Luca darting ahead to a control panel, his tiny fingers flipping switches with the precision of a savant. Lights dimmed strategically, plunging sections into shadow, the sodium hum outside the walls pulsing like a heartbeat. The tech vanished into the repair bay, where welding torches sparked erratically, their blue flames dancing on oily puddles that reflected the pursuit like fractured mirrors. Dante tackled him against a generator housing, the impact thudding dully, eliciting a grunt but no graphic struggle, just efficient restraint, wrists zip-tied with zip cords from a nearby kit. "Who sent you?" Dante demanded, hauling him up by the collar, the man's face paling under the scar lamp glare. Sweat beaded on his brow, mixing with the acrid bite of solder fumes. "Wedding insider? Spill, or the Contes get nothing." The tech's laugh was bitter, choked. "Not Contes. Your own blood. Marco's best man, the cousin from the Alliance. He rerouted the manifests himself. Payoff wired through a ghost account. Wanted the ledger to expose the old codes, fracture the family post-wedding. The driver was bait. You were the target." Betrayal's sting landed like a gut punch. Internal rot deeper than any rival's blade. Ambition versus the code. A relative's grudge from old grievances resurfacing in the wedding's opulent wake. Dante's jaw clenched, the bruise from the convoy throbbing anew, but his voice stayed even. "Why the kids? The nurse?" "Leverage," the tech spat, eyes darting to the tunnel's maw where Elena and the others waited, the river's chill seeping in like an invitation. "DNA result seals it, makes you vulnerable. He figured the shock would crack you. Human error amplified by greed, a family member's access codes. Behavioral tells missed in the ceremony's dazzle. Eyes lingering too long on the triplets, a coded gesture in the toast. Dante nodded to a guard, who dragged the tech away. The interrogation headed to a soundproof safe house tucked in the warehouse's underbelly. Elena emerged from the shadows as the lights stabilized, the triplets clustering around Dante, their faces alight with the thrill of unraveling. Nonna's arm linked through hers, the old woman's grip a bridge over the chasm of revelation. The threat had been real, orchestrated from within. Victory snatched not by firepower, but by the children's patterns and the code's unyielding restraint. Cost lingered. Exposure of a family fracture, Marco's circle tainted, shipments now under triple rotations to plug the leak. Dante knelt, drawing them all close, his hand enveloping Elena's in a pledge warmer than the warehouse's chill. No more shadows. Safe house on the North Shore. Penthouses with river views. Guards but no cages. Your shifts end. We build from here. Elena's resistance melted under the weight of it. Trust forged in the evasion's fire. Autonomy yielding to shared vigilance. The triplets beamed, Luca tracing a new code on Dante's palm. Family roots, not just escapes. Nonna's smile deepened, crinkling like sun on waves, as they loaded into a fresh convoy, armored sedans with scrubbed plates, snaking toward luxury veiled in normalcy. The river gleamed outside, its currents a metaphor for the life ahead. Hazardous bends navigated together, loyalty outlasting the Empire's raw power. In the penthouse's sunlit expanse that evening, overlooking the lake's vast shimmer, Elena watched the children nap in a nursery lined with puzzle maps and secure cribs, the air scented with fresh linen and faint lake mist. Dante stood beside her, his code a vow whispered. Protection. Not possession. A future pledged in quiet moments, the adventure's scars transforming them into found family. Legacy wasn't thrones or ledgers. It was this. Their hands intertwined, memories of storms and chases binding tighter than any debt. The true treasure wasn't spoils, but the bonds that weathered the betrayal, proving that in Chicago's shadowed veins, chosen family endured. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of loyalty, danger, and found family. See you in the next story.